Hello, aspirants, and welcome to Rungta IAS Academy. Today, we're taking up a highly scoring critical analysis topic directly from your GS Paper 3 Environment and Ecology syllabus. Absolutely, sir. We are looking at a major paradigm shift when it comes to invasive alien species. Usually, we just assume these plants are the outright villains, right? But as future administrators, you need a much more nuanced analytical approach. So let's dive straight into this explainer.
Now, I want you to imagine you're sitting in the exam hall and you see this exact question pop up as a 15 marker in your mains paper. Is the mass eradication of invasive species the correct ecological strategy for India? How are you going to structure that? You simply can't just write a generic answer about chopping down plants. You really need to unpack the complex ecological realities on the ground. Exactly. And to give you the current affairs context for your intro, look at what's happening right now. Across India, campaigns against these invasive species are getting massive administrative and judicial backing. For instance, a recent Tamil Nadu court order literally painted Prosopis Juliflora shrubs as this near-statewide threat, prompting government drives to clear it from 517 villages. And we're seeing similar, very aggressive campaigns targeting Lantana Camara and Senna spectabilis everywhere. The state machinery is moving incredibly fast on this. Right, and here's exactly where we need to apply our analytical minds. Think in terms of the symptom versus root cause framework. The prevailing assumption out there is pretty straightforward, isn't it? Just mechanically remove the invasive species, and boom, ecological recovery will automatically follow. But the ecological reality is entirely different. Our native biomes were actually heavily degraded long before these invasive plants ever took over. So removing the plant without understanding the broken landscape, it's a fundamentally flawed strategy. That's a crucial distinction, sir. Let's actually trace the ecological history of our subcontinent to understand why. Prosopis juliflora, for example, was introduced back in 1877 as a rather misguided ecological experiment. Then, during the colonial era, we saw vast tracts of diverse forest converted into simplified commercial plantations, think tea and teak. Fast forward to post-independence, the Green Revolution brought in expanded canals, deep bore wells, and massive fertilizer surges. The result today? We are left with depleted aquifers and entirely altered soil chemistry. Essentially, the habitat was heavily fragmented way before the invasives even became a problem. Absolutely. And we have to factor in another massive dimension to this degraded landscape: 500 million. India supports roughly 500 million cattle and other livestock. That's one of the largest livestock populations in the entire world. Now think about what that does. It places continuous, intense grazing pressure on our forests and commons. The palatable native species just get repeatedly eaten and suppressed. And what does that leave behind? It leaves the landscape wide open for thorny, disturbance-tolerant, and chemically defended plants to just take over. On top of that, consider this truly staggering figure: 35 to 40 million. That is the tons of urea we use annually in India. This massive nutrient loading, combined with atmospheric nitrogen deposition, which adds another 10 to 30 kgs per hectare, by the way, fundamentally rewires the soil's chemistry across huge regions. We are, quite literally, saturating the land with chemicals. Precisely. So when you have this highly altered, chemically saturated, nitrogen-rich landscape that ma'am just described, native species are obviously going to struggle. But woody nitrogen-fixing species like Senna spectabilis, they absolutely thrive in these new conditions. The irony is, the plant was present in the background for decades. What actually changed was the entire landscape around it. And this brings us to a highly counterintuitive point, one that will definitely fetch you excellent marks in your mains. These invasive species often perform what we call compensatory ecological roles. They act as ecological first responders because their physiology handles rapid changes so well. They accumulate heavy metals, soak up excess nitrogen, and sequester carbon. They even provide cover for smaller wildlife in highly disturbed areas and help bind the soil. So you see, they're often just symptoms of a wider civilizational transformation, not the actual root villains. So what's the actual way forward? Aspirants, you want to use these exact points for a strong, forward-looking conclusion in your GS3 answers. A true comprehensive restoration strategy means shifting our focus away from just counting acres of cleared plants. We need to measure actual shifts in moisture regimes and soil chemistry. Removal has to be local, patient, and continuous, not just some massive one-off mechanical clearing. It demands phased planting and, perhaps most importantly, intergenerational care that secures meaningful livelihoods for our local communities.
Exactly. And we'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Imagine the UPSC panel leans in during your personality test and asks you, are we spending our conservation energy merely removing the symptoms of a wider civilizational transformation that we have yet to confront? It is a profound question about the true cost of just mechanically eradicating plants versus fostering actual ecological healing. Keep this perspective sharp for your upcoming exams. Thank you for tuning into this explainer, and keep studying smart.